Hey, this is Herndon Davis from MortgageRealEstateServices.com. I am a mortgage broker specializing in getting you financed for investment residential properties as well as commercial properties. So I'm the one who makes sure that your property is tight and ready to go, that you're making money off of it and getting the right lender. So again, investment properties only, commercial properties. We're dealing with retail buildings that house coffee houses, clubs, restaurants, daycare centers, or stores. Or we're also looking at investment properties for residential that could be either single family, condos, Airbnbs, multifamily, duplexes, quadplexes, and the like. So whatever it is you want to invest in to get rent from and leasing from, I'm your guy. All right. So in today's webinar, I want to really focus on a hot topic, basically, that's been reverberating across the real estate development industry for probably about 2 decades or so. And the topic is gentrification, all right? Gentrification. Okay, so many people have many definitions about what it is. So what I want to do right now is define for you what exactly is gentrification. Now, gentrification is really the process of breathing new life into a formerly depressed neighborhood or community. When I say depressed in terms of socioeconomically depressed, income, crime, high bankruptcy or foreclosure rates, and also a low market value for homes being sold as well. All right, low home values. So breathing new life means bringing in new housing stock. It could be buying existing homes and fixing them up, or it could be building from scratch on a vacant lot and bringing in new residents to live in those houses, in those apartments. And eventually, as gentrification grows, here comes the commercial property piece of it, which is really important because once you put a grocery store here or Starbucks there, well, now you're rocking and rolling. Now you're really making it happen in that community. So the last step of this is to really marry the commercial with the residential, and that brings about more change through your city. Your city will invest by paving the roads, by rebuilding the sidewalks, by putting up street lights that need to be there, and by, let's say, dispatching police officers to patrol the area more so than what was done before, right? So again, breathing new life in a depressed area. Okay, so it's really important that gentrification often has a lot of racial tones attached to it, but I want to make sure that you guys watching now know that you can be a gentrifier regardless of what race or what ethnicity or what gender you are, all right? You too can be a gentrifier. I am a gentrifier. So don't get hung up on the racial component as much, but be aware that if you're breathing new life into an area or a community, then you are bringing it to life, then you are helping it, you are gentrifying it. Now, I want to get into more of the process of how you keep a balance with that, new residents versus old residents. That's going to come up in the next 7 steps. So, but first I'm going to start off by wanting you to think about why is it that you want to become a gentrifier, right? There are no right or wrong answers. So you may want to say, hey, I want to make money. That's a great idea, make money. I want to make money too. That's why I'm doing this webinar. But others might say, hey, I want to fix up my neighborhood, all right? Great, there's a great opportunity to do it. Or you might want to go back home to your hometown and fix up your hometown neighborhoods, even better. Or you just might say, hey, I just want to help people in general. Doesn't matter what your reasons are for doing it, you are a gentrifier, stick with it, all right? Now, here are the 7 steps, to gentrifying your own neighborhood. Step number 1, you're going to have to become civically engaged, civically involved in whatever community that you want to gentrify in. All right, so what you're going to want to do is for your city that you're in right now, you need to go downtown or actually go online and download the 25 to 50 year master plan for your city. All right, every city has one or should have one at least. A 10-year plan, a 15-year plan, 25, 30, 50-year plan. Everyone's different. All right. So basically, this is the vision of your city leaders. They're going to tell you via maps and data that this is where the city is going to grow. These are the areas where it's going to grow. This is what we're going to designate for residential, for medical. This is where we're going to want new housing. This is how we want the new housing to look. This is the zoning behind it. All right. You need to download that and study it very, very carefully and see what the city thinks is going to be the next area to grow. All right. You also need to, if you're riding around a neighborhood that's depressed, or just any neighborhood period, really, and you see these little yellow sticky notes, or not sticky notes, these yellow signs that say Variance Request, you need to take a picture of it and go to those meetings. All right. Find out who's getting a variance request for their building, for their new house, for whatever they're doing in the community that you want to gentrify in. Find out what they're doing that they're getting variances for. All right, be nosy, all right, in a good way. Also, you might want to start going to, you should actually start going to zone variance meetings, zoning meetings that really talk about the zoning of cities and of neighborhoods. Find out, go to business licensing meetings as well, because if someone owns a building, they want to change the use of it, you want to know why and what they're doing. Okay, you're not really there to question it, but you're there to find out what's going on in their neighborhood. If someone has let's say a restaurant and now they want to change their business license to include serving alcohol, well, that says something. What does it say? Does it say that they're needing more customers, there's a demand for it, or do they anticipate growth with more people coming in? Right? Let's say there's a place that sells wine only, but now they want to change their license to serve stronger spirits. What does that say? I don't know. It depends on your neighborhood. It depends on your zip code. Every explanation is different depending on what city you're in, and you know your city better than I do. Okay, so it's really important that you become civically engaged, civically involved, because you need to know what's happening in the city. Because if you don't, then you're not going to become a very good gentrifier. All right. Step 2, you're going to have to start researching the neighborhoods more closely based upon a set of criteria. The criteria you want to look at is really by zip code, the overall household income, the foreclosure rate, the bankruptcy rate, the crime rate, as well as the home value rate, or the home values for houses in that area. It's really important, because if they're all depressed and all significantly low, the rest of the city and the rest of the nation, odds are great that area is really ripe for gentrification. But there's one thing you have to recognize. What is the proximity to this neighborhood that you're studying to something major? It could be the downtown area. It could be the waterfront, the lakefront. It could be a major intersection. Or it could be this community used to be thriving at one time, and now it's not. But there are like 3, 4 major buildings. There was a manufacturer there. They used to make tires or something industrial. Those buildings are still there. Okay, so that tells me that quite possibly someone with really deep pockets is going to renovate those buildings. Something's going to come out of those buildings. So maybe I want to buy properties around those buildings to grow with the growth when it happens. Maybe you saw on the master plan that something's going to be happening in that area, and you notice these empty buildings over here. Hey, buildings are commercial in nature, so they're there to house businesses that come into a neighborhood after the residents move in. So think about it that way. But again, if it's depressed in terms of home value, depressed in terms of bankruptcy rate and foreclosure rate and crime rate, but it's close in proximity to a major intersection, downtown, lakefront, waterfront, or is home or near major buildings and warehouses that used to be something back in the day, odds are you might want to go ahead and start buying in those areas. Step 3, you want to start building you a trusted team, with the big emphasis on the word trusted. You want a realtor who knows investment property like the back of his or her hand. You don't want someone buying property in the suburbs, buying some property in the suburbs, or in areas of town that are well-to-do, that have nothing to do with the neighborhood that you want to buy in. All right. I would be very wary of realtors who say, "Oh, I'm all over the place. I'll go anywhere." That's great to be that way, but at the same time, you need someone who knows your neighborhood like the back of their hand. Because what you want to do when you meet with your realtor to interview them to see if you want to hire them, you want to ask them all the questions that you've already researched already. You want to know, well, tell me about what's planned for the city in this neighborhood that you know of from the city. Or tell me what the crime rate is, or what the foreclosure rate is. They may not know specifics like you do, but if they can't not tell you things about this community that you're looking to invest in, then you need to go find you another realtor who knows that area. Don't trust anyone's word for it. I got you. No, you interview your realtor and you build a bond of trust with them, because you don't want that realtor, and this happens all the time. It's a dog world out there and cutthroat. And people will take what you're doing, your ideas, and run over across town or next door to their friends and say, "Hey, let's buy this. You know, my new client is looking over here. He's buying this stuff over here. Let's go in and buy it ourselves as well." Now, granted, you can't stop anyone from doing that, but what you can do is hopefully build a level of trust with your realtor so that doesn't happen. Same thing with your contractor. Do not get a contractor who is requiring you to put up all your money up front, half your money up front, 30% of your money up front. You need to let that contractor go. If your contractor has to be professional for one thing. He or she has to be well funded. You are not going to fund them up front to get to work on your job, because what they're doing, they're taking that money and finishing up the job on the project they're working on right now. You don't want that. Okay, you might want to advance to maybe 10-15% at max, at most. Or you might want to say, "Hey, I'll buy the supplies for you to start work on, you bring the labor, and then you invoice me when the work is done, and I'll pay you then." If they can't do that, then you kick them to the curb, because this is your investment that you're working on, and you don't want anyone messing it up. Make sure they know how to give you estimates for restoring property to a rental value and restoring property to a resale value. It's really important, because those are two different things. And he or she needs to understand what those differences are and can give you a really good ballpark. And make sure you get something itemized. If they don't have anything itemized, that's a red flag. Present them with a list of things. And if you need it, I can email it to you. A list of things that they should check off and say how much it's going to cost by line item. Don't go with this, it's going to be this amount, and have no idea of what goes where and what is buying what. This is your investment. If your contractor doesn't want to do that, you kick him or her to the curb. You find you a trusted contractor, and you find you a trusted realtor. Number 4, always buy your properties in clusters. All right, it's very important you do that for the valuation of all your property together. They evaluate upward together. It does not do you any good, or that community any good, to buy a property over here, a house over here, and a house 8 blocks over. You're not doing any good, really. In the beginning, you're not doing any good. You want to buy them together, either on the same street or on the same block, or you could buy on one street, then one street over, you buy 2 or 3 more. They're in a very close circle, and you want that. You also want to buy in a like capacity. So if you want to buy all single-family houses, do that. If you want to buy all multi-family houses, do that. Don't mix and match. You can do it eventually, but what you want to do is build up the value of what you're building together. Like will help like. A single-family home will not help a multi-family home appreciate in value, but a single-family home will help your other single-family home that's across the street increase in value. It's really important that you recognize that you got to build together, and also build like or buy like properties. Now, I'm not saying don't branch out to multifamily or don't branch out to commercial, because I want you to do that, because I want to be your mortgage broker to help you do that. But in the beginning, make sure that you help yourself by making sure they evaluate together upward. Okay. Now, brings me to my next step. You want to stair-step your strategy, okay? That means that in the beginning, if you're just getting to the neighborhood, and it's just now gentrifying, you want to start off with renting at the level that people in that neighborhood are used to. So if many people are in public housing there, you might want to just go ahead and do Section 8 rentals, right? In the beginning. And so people are going to be nosy, and they're going to discover that you're building over there, and they're going to want to build as well. And so as more people come to your community, now your next few properties will be at market value. You rent them at market value, not at Section 8 value, but at market value. And as commercial development comes in, all right, now that's the beautiful part about it. What you want to do is you fix up your house again, and then you sell it, you flip it, all right? So you start off with Section 8 rentals at first, low-income rental, affordable rentals. Then you move on up to market-based rentals. Then you flip it at the height, or at the maybe 3/4 up to the height of a full-scale gentrification. All right. So you want to build together, build alike, and then you want to stair-step your way through that process. Number 5, what you want to do is go ahead and run title on dilapidated properties and on vacant properties, or properties that are so horrible that have no apparent caretaker or owner to them. Do that up front now, because there are 2 ways to buy properties, or 3 ways to buy properties in these depressed areas. One, there's someone selling their house, all right? So you know pretty much who the owner is. Title is pretty much easy to conduct. Then there are properties that the city may own, okay? So here in Houston, for instance, they have a $1 vacant lot program and a reduced purchase lot program, whereby for $1 they sell you a vacant lot, you build something on it, and then you sell the house, or you rent it out at a maximum amount that the city dictates. So you're not going to make the maximum profit that you might at the height of gentrification, but you will make a profit once you decide to flip it or rent it out, because you bought it for only $1. All right, so that's one program that's here. And there's another program that I believe that you can buy it at a reduced market value price, and I don't think there's a cap on what you can sell it for or rent it for. So just remember that you could do either or is fine. Now the third way to buy property in these areas is to go find a property that looks like no one's taken care of at all, and then run title on it and see who owns it. And then do your investigative work. Either you hire someone to do it, or you do it yourself. You find out what the chain of custody was on the property. You look up the will. If there was a will, you read the will. All that's legal to do. It's public record. And find out who the heirs are, and then you track down the heirs. So you say, hey, look, this property down here, no one's living in it. It's horrible. I want to buy it for you, or from you for X number of dollars. Okay. So that's called wholesaling. There are companies that do this. You can do it yourself. Depends on how you want to do it. All right. But it's really important that you do that, run the title on these vacant properties and dilapidated properties yourself, so you can get a really good idea of what you're dealing with. Number 6, I would recommend that you become somewhat of an advocate for the elderly people in your community that you're gentrifying. I know it seems like counterproductive that you're trying to gentrify this area, but you're trying to help the elderly people as well. Believe me, you will work out better in the long run when you work with your community. I would suggest that, for the city of Atlanta, for instance, I believe, they have a program where property taxes are frozen if you are a certain age, and if you're homesteading your property. So all the rising developments around you have higher property values, but this elderly person doesn't, okay? I would encourage you to champion legislation like that with your local city or county. Champion resources that can help the elderly move or transition to new housing as more people come in and buy up houses that they've been renting because they don't own it. I encourage you to do some contributions to local services that help elderly people in this area. It's really important that you become a good steward, become a socially conscious gentrifier. Just don't go in and raid everything and you know, put things on top of each other and that's it and leave. No, these are people, these are neighborhoods that need to be taken care of, which leads me actually to my seventh and last point. It's really important that you keep a portion of your portfolio for affordable housing. I'm not telling you to keep the whole thing. I'm not telling you to keep a certain percentage. I don't know what that number is for you. But what you want to do is build goodwill in your community, because it's the very same people who are on Section 8 may get a job and say, hey, what else you got? I want to rent from you. I want to buy from you. Okay? You've got a commercial building that you fixed up and you're renting out at market value. You might want to have maybe 1 or 2 spaces that are kind of small but shared spaces where emerging businesses can actually hold, can have and hold meetings there. And when they grow to become bigger businesses, they may say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, what else you got in this neighborhood? I'm ready to grow my business. Keeping an affordable portion of your portfolio, whether it's commercial or residential, investment residential, is really important. It keeps you engaged in the neighborhood. People do not forget that. And it makes you more socially conscious. And one last thing about this, I would encourage you to work within the neighborhood in terms of its architectural style and development. What happens often is that someone takes this 3-4-story townhouse and plonks it right next to whatever was there for 5 decades, and it's often a maybe a shotgun house, or it could be a craftsman house, or it could be something that does not resemble at all what you just put there. What you might want to do is renovate what's there, build new what's similar to what's there, to keep consistency. Here's why. In most cities, realtors will increase the value of your property relative to everything else around it. So if people have similar style themes of houses around them, whether they're fixed up or old, your home will value higher. If you put this monstrosity next to it that should be probably, I don't know, in a brand new pre-planned development, that's not going to value well. It'll be the hardest thing to buy, the hardest thing to sell when you want to get rid of it. Don't do that. You can build an area of town with vacant properties that you can put your monstrosities in, but when you put a monstrosity in the middle of a block of houses that are 1,500 square feet and you're putting an 8,000 square foot mansion right there, it may not be the best use of your resources. So just think about that. All right, so those are the 7 steps to gentrifying your neighborhood. Do not forget that anyone can become a gentrifier of any race, ethnicity, gender, it doesn't matter. Just remember that I can help you become that gentrifier. I want to help you become that gentrifier. Please contact me at mortgagerealestateservices.com. You can also reach me, text or call me at area code 832-457-8951. All right, please forward this video to others. Talk to you soon. Thanks.